We're now joined by Dr. Julie Ansis, who is a professor and cyberpsychology director at the New Jersey Institute of Technology, NJIT. Doctor, good to see you.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, I've been wanting to talk to you for a while because I think about Zoom fatigue. I think about how isolated people have been. We're taping this at the end of April 2021, 14 plus months as we go into the COVID crisis, if you will, the global pandemic. What does that have to do with cyberpsychology?
Great question. I think it has everything to do with cyberpsychology. Cyberpsychology is basically the study of how people behave in a technologically oriented environment. And so that includes social media, and that includes the study of how social media impacts our well-being. And certainly loneliness, and we're in a loneliness pandemic now, especially with younger generations, really has everything to do with the study of social media and its impact on well-being and other aspects of cyberpsychology. Loneliness.
So interesting. So for our kids who want to be with their friends more, they're with them some, particularly as more teenagers and others are vaccinated. But now, as millions of other parents worry about this, we worry about our kids being lonely. But they're online. When they're online playing games, interacting with each other, are they less lonely?
Yeah, that's another good question. And I think
by the way, all I have is questions. I have zero answers, but go ahead.
I think it's a complicated issue. So I don't come down as social media being all good or all bad. If you look at the research in this area, it's quite complicated. So social media, playing games online, interacting with other people online is an incredible source of social support for many people, including our kids who are engaged in remote learning or have been this entire year. So it's really about, I think, looking at what are they looking at online? What kind of games are they playing online? How frequent are they engaged in their social media versus engaging in face-to-face, in-person interactions with friends or family? So I think there are a lot of variables to consider when we're looking at the impact of gaming on loneliness or gaming on anxiety and depression, or even other aspects of social media use.
The other thing that I often think about, again, when I say I think about it, it just means I know other people are thinking about it, is, so when I think about Zoom fatigue, all right, to me, I need to see people. And I guess it would be better to have meetings in person, broadcast in person. Okay, we can't do that. Let's do this. But then there are some people who say, I just don't want to even be seen anymore. So we're talking about loneliness, but the paradox, or the thing that's confusing to me, is it's less lonely when you can see and hear people in a Zoom meeting, but more and more people are saying, I don't want to be seen. I want to just be heard, which means they're less engaged. Trust me, there's a question here. If they're less engaged, aren't they more lonely? Doesn't Zoom bring us together?
Yeah, it certainly has brought us together. So the fact
when I say Zoom, I mean any platform. We're not promoting Zoom. I mean any GoToMeeting, whatever it is. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, the invention of these platforms, the creation of technology and technological advances have enabled us to engage across time zones, across geographic regions, in ways we could never have imagined. So that's been incredible. And as I mentioned a moment ago, an incredible source of social support. At the same time, we really have to question whether these platforms and our engagement in these platforms can really replace face-to-face interactions, because there are a lot of aspects of these kinds of engagements that are not necessarily natural and do have an impact on our psychology.
Okay, so this is a really tough one, and I don't need you to tell me it's a good question, because it's a good question because no one's ever answered this. Okay,
but you ask good questions, so okay. I mean it.
I'm trying, but here's the other one. One of our producers, by the way, when you say good questions, because our producer just said it in my ear. But you ready for this one? mindfulness. The term mindfulness gets thrown around a lot. To me, I've tried meditation a million times, and too many things going on in my mind, which I know is a self-defeating, I know the problem there. But it's not just me again. Mindfulness beyond meditation, whether it's just taking a walk, being with yourself, listening to music, reading, what value is there in this thing called mindfulness, and how do we then determine the difference between mindfulness and loneliness? I go into myself, okay, and I feel better, but I'm lonely. How do we protect ourselves there?
Well, I'm a big proponent of mindfulness, and I, like you, struggle with it. But I've been practicing it for a very long time. So I think with those folks, yes. So folks who are maybe type A and go-getters and high achievers like you, perhaps, may have a hard time just relaxing and being in the present moment. And mindfulness is all about being grounded, being present, and having a state of mind and body where no matter what is happening around you, no matter whether there's chaos or not, that you're able to sort of maintain your center, and is extremely important.
We're going to talk offline about meditation.
Okay.
By the way, Dr. Richard Carlson, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, has a great chapter called Beware of the Busy Mind. Read it, check it out. Hey, ready for this one? I think back on January 6th, right? That is the date for the horrific insurrection at the Capitol. So people came together. People weren't lonely, but they were also listening to the echo chamber back and forth digitally, telling themselves an election was stolen, came together. And the point I'm making is, what about all the misinformation, confusing, contradictory, false? I'm together, I'm not lonely, but I'm with these other people who believe what the question here is this: how the heck do we manage information and make sure that what we get is legitimate and accurate?
That is the challenge of this century. We are bombarded with information 24/7, and it's very difficult, even for the most educated and the most informed, to make sense of what's true and what's not true. So there are a number of interventions, and there are a number of—
About 20 seconds left. I apologize for doing that to you, Julie. Go ahead.
There are a number of games that have been developed to teach people how to be more critical thinkers with regard to information online, and to be able to spot when information is false or misleading.
Cool. By the way, let's make sure in post-production we put, is there a website that people can go to on your end that people can find out more?
Sure. One could go to njit.edu to learn about the cyberpsychology program. I also have a blog on Psychology Today online, the cyberpsychology page.
Awesome.
And I've also been leading up webinars related to cyberpsychology with some of the leading speakers across the world. And one could find that on the YouTube channel, NJIT Cyberpsychology Center.
Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. And by the way, just to be clear, NJIT, one of the higher ed partners that we work with to promote important public information. Thank you, Julie. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by IBEW Local 102, Bank of America, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, MD Advantage Insurance Company, NJM Insurance Group, Operating Engineers, Local 825, New Jersey Sharing Network, Choose New Jersey, and by NJ Best. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Globe, and by AM 970 The Answer.
NJM Insurance Company has been serving New Jersey policyholders for more than 100 years. But just who are NJM's policyholders? They're the men and women who teach our children, the public sector employees who maintain our infrastructure, the workers who craft our manufactured goods, and New Jersey's next generation of leaders, the people who make our state a great place to call home. NJM. We've got New Jersey covered.